Hey, how's it going everybody? I hope you're all good. My name is Peter Gargan, and for this video, I'd like to reflect on some of my favourite releases on the Switch this past year, as it could very well be my new favourite year for Nintendo's hybrid console, a stance which I last felt in 2019. Without further ado, let's not waste any more time and explain why that is. Starting off this video is the one that was released first, but also the most recent one I played due to being on the fence initially, and that is none other than Pokemon Legends Arceus. To give some background, Ultra Moon was the last main series Pokemon game I had played, as I was losing interest in the franchise as a result of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Sword and Shield, and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl not looking too appealing to me. Because of this, I was cautiously optimistic about Legends Arceus due to the promising shift in direction and the potential that it carried, despite still looking a little rough around the edges in the visual department, but my mindset at the time was not to risk going for it in case I'd ended up disappointed. Fast forward to Scarlet and Violet kicking off the 9th generation and looking even less appealing in my eyes, I decided I might as well just give Legends Arceus a chance, and boy I regret not playing it sooner. It pretty much has a lot of what I wished we could see in a Pokemon game, throwing in survival elements to create a higher stakes environment with an addictive structure of exploring and capturing wild Pokemon in a more action oriented manner, with the purpose of gathering research data for the Pokédex while also staying somewhat true to the main series mechanics. And we've got a recipe for a Pokemon game that I would go as far as to say could end up being my second favourite in the entire series, only surpassed by both my nostalgia and retrospective appreciation for Black and White, which by my standards is a high expectation to begin with, seeing as it's not only my favourite Pokemon game, but also one of my favourite games of all time in general. This Legends format is one that I hope isn't just a one-off, as there's a lot of potential for it to be expanded upon and explore other ancient depictions of beloved Pokemon regions. I'd love to see ones for Johto and Unova, for example. A 3D Kirby game has always been a concept I have wished to see fully realised for years, and to coincide with the 25th anniversary of the Pink Eye, HAL Laboratories delivered with Kirby in the Forgotten Land, and man, it's pretty much everything I dreamt it would be and more. An epic adventure that sees Kirby transported to a foreign dimension, consisting of abandoned civilizations with interesting lore beneath the surface. Each level feels lovingly handcrafted with meticulous care, injected with all sorts of personality and charm. You never know what's next around the corner, and there are plenty of creative ideas sprinkled throughout to make the entire adventure all the more engaging, making sure there's never a dull moment. I think it's safe to say that it is only the start to a new era for Kirby that I'm nothing but excited to see get expanded upon in the future. If you haven't yet experienced one of the greatest Nintendo platformers of the past decade, well, I'll let Reggie do the honours of saying it.
What's wrong with you?
Next up, we've got what I considered my most anticipated release for this year in my video going over what I was looking forward to from last year, and that is that we've finally seen Bayonetta 3 come to light. Despite certain controversies surrounding it during the pre-release stage, I still wanted to play the game after waiting nearly 5 years since its initial announcement, and it is yet again another exhilarating action title that feels satisfying to control as per Platinum Games standard. While I still haven't beaten it, therefore not having an opinion on the ending which seems to be a point of debate with fans, no spoilers please, I'd rather find that out for myself. I waited to get it for my birthday in mid-November a few weeks after it came out, so I intend to play the rest of it in my own time, and see if I have any further opinions to share later on down the line. But so far, I've been having a blast, and hope this level of fun I'm having continues for the rest of my time with it. Before we get into my choice for the game of the year, I thought I'd just go over some of the games that I didn't get around to playing that also came out this year, that I either just didn't get around to having time to playing, or they just didn't grab my interest enough but I also thought was worth mentioning. So yeah. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope is the main one I still haven't played but have every intention to at some point. I still haven't beaten Kingdom Battle yet, as yet again, I wasn't too interested in it at first, only to try it out years later and regret not playing it sooner. But based on what people have been saying, Sparks of Hope seems to be a significant improvement, greatly expanding on what made Kingdom Battle so refreshing to begin with, and the part that excites me the most is the return of Rayman as part of its upcoming DLC. The thought of everything coming back full circle is what intrigues me the most, as the Rabbids wouldn't be where they are today if Rayman hadn't introduced them to the world of gaming in the first place. So it's nice to see that Ubisoft are remembering the Rabbids' roots in this way, and make Sparks of Hope all the more enticing as someone who regards Rayman as a personal childhood hero. Splatoon 3 has seemingly got a lot of praise for being another continuation of Nintendo's beloved multiplayer shooter. I just haven't played it yet, as I was also late to Splatoon 2 and have yet to finish my time with that game, but I'm sure the third entry is great, as I didn't want to neglect mentioning it, as most others would likely list it as one of their 2022 highlights. I enjoyed my time with the initial demo of Triangle Strategy prior to its release, but in the end, I was a bit intimidated by how much of an investment of time it would be when my number one choice was also around the corner, and when it comes to lengthy RPGs that demand a lot of my time and attention, naturally I chose to prioritize that particular game due to it belonging to my favourite RPG franchise, but if I ever find the time, I may give Triangle Strategy another shot, as I still recognise the love that was put into it. There were also a few third-party releases we saw this year that I intend to play eventually. Nier Automata and Persona 5 Royal have been two of my most wanted ports for the Switch for quite a few years, and I was ecstatic to see them confirmed. It's just all the aforementioned games I mentioned earlier that made it difficult to try them out right away. Sonic Frontiers is also worth mentioning, as I am curious of the open world or open zone approach to 3D Sonic gameplay. Depending on who you ask, it has been described as an experimental approach that has either paved the way for a new direction in the Sonic series, or one that could have been executed better and has room for improvement. Either way, I'm going to reserve judgment until I actually play it for myself, as I'm still curious to see it for myself and come to my own conclusions, as this game has generated some of the most polarizing reception I've seen in a long time, and I'd very much like to tread carefully. Now, let's talk about the game that most of you that are subscribed to this channel were probably waiting to hear about. A game that I couldn't include in my most anticipated games video from last year due to not actually being announced back at the time. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 seemingly came out of nowhere, being announced in early 2022 with a promised September release. Naturally, I thought, wow, that's pretty soon. But later on down the line, the release date got pushed forward to even sooner than expected in July, which only heightened the excitement even further. And when I finally got to experience it, I once again fell in love with the latest of Monolith Soft's JRPG delights that keeps on delivering the goods, combining many of the elements that I loved from across the series into one package and quickly becoming a strong contender for my personal series favourite, which by the way is no easy feat due to both Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 being considered two of my favourite games of all time. I have other videos going into further detail on my thoughts, so I won't go on any further as I'll be here for hours outlining everything I love, but Xenoblade 3 is officially my game of the year for 2022. It even feels surreal to see it get a nomination for it in the Game Awards. Yes, realistically it was always going to go to either Elden Ring or God of War Ragnarok, partially due to more mainstream recognition, but I'm sure they are still deserving based on what I've heard, and I'm perfectly content to see Xenoblade even being chosen alongside them as a contender for Best Game, as that within itself is a remarkable accomplishment for a franchise with such a niche appeal in comparison. Now we've just got to wait for the story expansion DLC for next year to see if it gives Torn of the Golden Country a run for its money in terms of how substantial it will be. Anyway, that just about does it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. What have been your favourite Switch releases of 2022? Do you consider it one of the console's best years so far, or have you felt a bit let down? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos on the world of Nintendo or other games of interest. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, have a happy new year!